Hello, I'm Miloš Lewiński and you're watching TVP World Talks, where every word matters. Now, throughout the years of NATO's existence, training has always been crucial in order to allow it to maintain its combat readiness and also to fulfill its role in terms of deterrence. So, as the upcoming NATO summit in Washington is just around the corner, we decided to invite Major General Norbert Wagner, commander of the NATO Joint Force Training Center, which is the oldest NATO facility in the Central and Eastern European region. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Thank you. Hello to everybody.
So let us begin with a bit of history. When the center was originally established 2 decades ago, obviously it wasn't clear how the situation would develop, but how important is it from what we know today? How important has it been for NATO's development throughout the years?
Yeah, I think the development of JFTC here in Bydgoszcz was a milestone for NATO in this part of the world. It paved the path for all NATO institutions, which are today here in Bydgoszcz. These are the 3rd Signal Battalion of NATO. These are the NATO Force Integration Unit, the Military Police Center of Excellence. So we have very important NATO agencies and additionally perhaps the NATO Communication and Information Agency, which supports us directly. So a lot of NATO institutions which make Bydgoszcz as a capital of Poland for NATO.
And now, of course, the training activities involve the cooperation between troops from various countries, various nationalities. How important is it from both the training standpoint, but also from the standpoint of NATO's development, to maintain this type of exercises, to ensure that troops from various countries interact, learn each other's ways, and make sure that they actually maintain the same combat procedures?
Thanks to such a diversity, we have an outstanding expertise and experience here in our Joint Force Training Center. And it's key for us to have such a personnel, which the nation sent with a broad experience from their home countries. So this experience brings us in the opportunity to really foster cohesion in NATO and to bring more unity within our different nations. So that's key, and that could be it's very important for our exercises.
So now you've raised the question of unity and of cohesion. And right now, apart from obviously making sure that this cohesion increases between countries which are already members of NATO, there is the question of providing support to Ukraine, as Ukraine is now waiting for its possible future pathway into NATO, which of course is yet to be determined. How it's going to be done, and it's a political question. But from the standpoint of the JFTC's activities today, how have they changed in the wake of the war in Ukraine, in the wake of Russia's attack against Ukraine? Have there been any new developments there when it comes to perhaps providing training or sharing experience with Ukrainian troops?
I think after the start of the war in Ukraine, for every nation it was clear that there must be a good preparation now. And that means to enhance readiness. And that's only possible by exercise and training. So this enhancement of readiness is key, and that changed dramatically in the last years. So everybody wants at the moment to train and exercise and prepare for a war who hopefully never will come. But it's key for deterrence.
So now, when it comes to the actual training activities, can you tell us more what they actually involve? Because we often talk about training in a very general sense, and we've already mentioned that NATO's eastern flank, it had to undergo a certain transition. Some of the methods and tactics, they still had more to do with the old Soviet era, the Warsaw Pact, and now the new tactics of NATO. This had to be unified. So what are the actual training exercises which help achieve this objective?
Yeah, as I just mentioned, we train the higher staffs in NATO. And these are exercises in a simulation environment, modeling and simulation. And we try to prepare them in a really broad environment. We call it multi-domain environment, where they really have a lot of challenges. So the staffs are trained and prepared for warfighting. That's what we are doing and what we are focusing on. That they get a better readiness, and that helps to prepare them for war and helps to have a better deterrence.
So I'm assuming when you say multi-domain, it's not just about land, sea and air, but also it involves certain other aspects, such as cyber warfare, for example?
Yes, of course. These are all domains which are normally well known: land, maritime, and also air, but also the new ones like space and cyber. So these are the areas where we talk about. And we talk about warfighting on the one hand and up to hybrid actions on the other side. And even the civil environment is very crucial for us.
Have there been any changes ever since Finland and then Sweden joined NATO? Has this actually had any effect on the way this center is operating today?
Of course, the accession of Finland and Sweden makes the alliance stronger. That's clear. At the moment, we still don't have anybody from Finland and Sweden as a permanent member in our staff, but we hope to have them here very soon. And they will enhance our capabilities, for sure.
And now we've mentioned existing NATO countries. Let's go back to Ukraine for a bit. And of course, I'm asking this question to the extent that such information can be revealed, because naturally some of it requires discretion. But so far, what has the cooperation with the Ukrainians involved? Like I'm saying, insofar as the activities can be made public without threatening the safety of anyone involved.
NATO conducts a lot of exercises, different exercises. And for example, for a lot of years, we have a very important exercise. We call it Coalition Warrior Interoperability Exercise. That's an exercise NATO countries, 32 now, with the 10 partnership nations conduct almost every year. And the Ukrainians were part of these exercises for years now. And this is a perfect opportunity, such an exercise, to improve interoperability and to have a better understanding about each other. And that's exactly what Ukraine needs.
And if I may, do you think that this actually already begins to show on the battlefield, with Ukrainians using not just NATO equipment, but also some of the NATO tactics?
I think our tactics in NATO, they are not bad. We have common regulations which we have developed for years now, and they work. And therefore, it's key in a cohesive and unified organization to have common procedures, and to have common procedures and which are well prepared and well understood. That's key in a warfighting.
So now, what is the current focus of activities of the JFTC? Naturally, we experience a gradually changing environment. We know that there is a renewed focus on conventional war. I mean, Ukraine has shown us this, that we cannot consign, like conventional weapons, tanks, and so on, to the so-called dustbin of history. They are still there. They are still very much relevant. So, would you say that the current focus has been also influenced by what we have already seen in Ukraine, the use of drones and so on? So how the modern battlefield continues to evolve, essentially.
Yeah, of course. We always monitor very closely ongoing situation in Ukraine, but also in the rest of the world. You have to be very current, otherwise you are not ready. And so the current things we see on the battlefield influence, of course, our training and exercise. And we see in the future that warfighting is more than only have direct fires. You have to see the whole environment there. You have to see the multi-domain operation approach. You have to see the civil environment. You have to see hybrid actions and. And so it's a very, very complex situation. And our trialists, to prepare our NATO force structure, course, the higher staffs exactly for this challenge.
And apart from that, what would you say are the biggest challenges which have already been identified? So you've mentioned that warfighting is expanding into different domains. They had to be considered at the same time in an interconnected environment. So what would you say are other challenges that also the JFTC has to take into account when it continues planning for these exercises and these simulations, taking into account what is actually happening across the world?
I think the biggest problem we have is up to now, almost everybody wants to have an exercise or a training. And we have to really focus on the most important. So we have to prioritize. That's one thing. We are one of only two of NATO's training centers, so we have to focus. But on the other side, we have to expand and give as much as possible training opportunities. And these training opportunities have to be as complex as possible. So these are the challenges, to find the right, let's say, way to have enough training and to have really realistic training. And that's not easy, but we try our best.
So in the near future, do you see that the role of the JFTC is likely to change somehow, to evolve perhaps beyond the original scope of activities?
Yeah, maybe. I think the request for training is becoming more and more, and we see this daily. So for sure, there will be an enhanced importance of Joint Force Training Center. That's for sure. And for the upcoming years, we try to improve our training more and more, become more and more realistic, and to be current and to implement all the lessons identified we see everywhere, especially in the Ukrainian war.
Major General Norbert Wagner was our guest today here on TVP World. Thank you very much for joining us and, of course, for sharing your expertise and your look at the history, the past, the present and the future of the JFTC. Thank you very much.
Thank you too. It was my pleasure.
And I'm Jan Ślewiński. You're watching TVP World. Please stay with us for more latest news and updates.